It was a tough weekend at Bristol. Most of the attention, prayers, and thoughts were on Alan Kulwicki, who ironically had won the Food City 500 a year ago. Many of the drivers would just as soon been somewhere else, in private with their thoughts, instead of being there running a race. But life goes on, and so did the running of the Food City 500. Bill Weber has the news and the highlights from the event.
Ned Rusty Wallace put the Miller Genuine Draft Pontiac on the pole here for the Food City 500 at Bristol. Rusty's qualifying speed 120.938 miles per hour. Of course, that made Rusty eligible for Unical bonus money here at Bristol. There were several minor incidents during practice, but there were two major crashes. First of all, Dick Trickle crashed the Carolina Pottery car. The pin was left out of the steering wheel. That car was destroyed. The team worked right up until race time trying to get a backup car ready for the event. Bobby Labonte also crashed the Maxwell House Ford. He needed a new front end. Both Labonte and Trickle took provisional starts. Darrell Waltrip took the champions provisional. That made a 35-car field ready for the Food City 500.
Today's Winston Cup highlights are brought to you by Texaco Haviland. Add more life to your car.
From the drop of the green flag, Rusty Wallace was a man on a mission. He grabbed the lead on lap 5 and made it clear his Miller Genuine Draft Pontiac was poised for a powerful performance. But it wasn't an easy run for Rusty. Challenged by the track and chased by the field, Wallace was forced to fend off several strong competitors. The 500-lap race was slowed by 17 cautions. The second one just 28 laps in for Sterling Moreland, Bill Elliott, Harry Gann, and others. More than half of the field found Bristol's high banks and hard walls a frustrating combination. For the first 200 laps, Dale Jarrett, Mark Martin, Dale Earnhardt, and Kyle Petty were consistently quick and competitive. But one by one, the tight track trimmed the list of contenders, collecting Ken Schrader, Rick Wilson, and Jarrett. His day ended on lap 207 after contact with Bobby Hillen. Dale's dismay was well displayed during the ensuing caution, and Jarrett was parked by NASCAR for the remainder of the day. It was a dismal day for several drivers. This multi-car incident in turn 2 slowed Ted Musgrave, Brett and Jeff Bodine, and a strong-running Michael Waltrip. Rookies Bobby Labonte and Jeff Gordon also had their problems during the race. The final 300 laps were a Bristol shootout between Wallace, Earnhardt in the Goodrich Chevrolet, and Martin in the Valvoline Ford. All three had strong cars making a solid run, and each took a turn at the lead. But Wallace moved to the point with 125 laps left and never surrendered the lead. Fueled during lightning-quick pit stops and emotionally charged by the loss of his frantic competitor, Wallace pushed his Pontiac and pulled away from Earnhardt and a fading Martin. Petty's Mellow Yellow crew cashed in on a late caution for an extra set of tires, and in the closing laps, surged from 5th to 3rd. Jimmy Spencer finished 4th, Davey Allison was 5th. But no one could catch Wallace as he picked up his second win of the season, edging Earnhardt by 0.8 of a second. Rusty followed up the win by saluting the late Alan Kulwicki with a Polish victory lap, sending a shower of tears raining down on Rusty and the memory of his fellow racer.
Buddy, I tell you what, when I started this race today, I was on a mission because I wanted to win that race. I really wanted to win the race because him and I started together, you know. And when I started this race, I was a 150% guy. I mean, I didn't break any concentration. I was set, I was aggressive, and tried to drive smart. And when I won that thing for Kulwicki, I said, I don't want this victory to overshadow what happened to him. And when I took the victory lap backwards, it was just for him. That's what he's always done. And the fans really seemed to like it. I told him a little while ago, there's a lot of people who don't like Rusty Wallace, but there wasn't anybody booing me when I went by a run. You know, they remembered Alan on that deal.
The Grand National Division ran a 250-lap event here at Bristol. Ward Burton captured the pole in his Hardee's Buick with a track record qualifying speed. But Ward was just one of several drivers either caught up or eliminated in a series of crashes that produced 13 cautions during the race. Michael Waltrip emerged from a pre-race practice crash to come back and lead the last 95 laps and win the event here at Bristol. Now, David Green finished 8th in the Slim Jim Chevrolet and continues to lead the chase for the championship. He held a 40-point margin over Robert Presley as the Grand National Series headed for Hickory.
In Victory Lane, Michael Waltrip dedicated his win to Alan Kulwicki, and he also got very excited and proposed to his girlfriend Buffy, who accepted his proposal, and They'll be married sometime in the future, and our congratulations to them. We need to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have the first of a two-part series on the life and career of Alan Kulwicki. And as we leave you for this break, here's the balance of the finishing order for the Food City 500. Immediately following the crash that took the life of Alan Kulwicki and 3 others at Blounteville, Tennessee, there were rumors flying high about what caused the plane to go down. There were eyewitness reports, and they had their own version of what caused the plane to crash. We expect it'll be weeks before the FAA will make an official ruling on what did cause the crash. In the first part of our two-part series on Alan Kulwicki, we take a look at the circumstances surrounding the crash and the reaction from the racing community.
I just can't believe it's happened. Can't understand how it could happen.
The people left behind are somewhat saddened by it, but we can all learn a little bit from the way that Alan did things and his sense of independence.
Alan was a hero, you know. He accomplished things that you just don't do anymore.
Very seldom a day went by that I didn't talk to Alan. I either called him, they called me, and I really, right now, you know, my heart is hurting. I really don't know what to say.
At 9:30 Thursday evening, while en route from Knoxville, Tennessee to Bristol, the twin-engine airplane carrying Alan Kulwicki, Mark Brooks, son of Hooters restaurant CEO Robert Brooks, director of sports marketing Dan Duncan, and pilot Charlie Campbell, crashed just 5 miles outside the Tri-City Regional Airport, just shy of Bristol. There were no survivors. Friday morning, under a light mist, the grief-stricken NASCAR community stood silent as Alan's car hauler took a final lap in memory of Alan and his associates. The checkered flag waved for the final time for the man that meant so much to the sport of NASCAR racing.
We're going to mourn his loss, I'll tell you that, because, I mean, that kid came down here with nothing and built a lot. Came here with nothing in one truck and a wore-out U-Haul trailer to win the championship, you know. Built him a nice shop, accumulated some race cars, built him a nice home. Was real well on his way to doing what everybody wants to do, you know, and tragedy struck, and it's terrible. I mean, the Kulwicki family, Kulwicki's father lost his wife, and now lost his other son, and now he's lost Alan, so he's sitting there by himself, lost his whole entire family.
I feel terrible for his dad. You know, he and his dad, I think, had gotten close, and his dad was certainly proud of him based on what I saw at the banquet last year. And to try to understand what that poor fellow's going through, it's been real hard for all of us. But Alan did a wonderful job. He was a good guy. He hurried up. There was a reason he needed to hurry up, because he had something else to go do. And now he's off doing it. The people left behind are somewhat saddened by it, but we can all learn a little bit from the way that Alan did things and his sense of independence. And like I say, all of our wishes go out to his dad, Jerry.
You know, everybody loved Alan, and it's a shame things like that happen, but it's the way, I guess, the Lord calls people, and he does it in his own mysterious ways, and it's just a sad moment.
Friend and confidant Felix Sabatis was named as director of Alan's estate.
His father have asked me for the interim basis if I can just give him a hand on handling the race team. We are going to try to secure a buyer for the team. Alan would have wanted the team to stay together, and Alan's father would very much like for the whole team to stay together as a unit, and the team wants to stay together as a unit. So I'm talking with several different people right now, and yeah, I want to bury Alan first before I sit down with anybody to talk about anything else to do with the team. But we are going to try to keep the team going, and I think we will be able to.
Indications are that Alan had requested that Jimmy Hensley be named as his replacement should at any time he be unable to continue as the team's driver. Funeral services for Kulwicki were held Wednesday in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A memorial service for his friends and fans was held on Thursday at Alan's church, the St. Thomas Aquinas, in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Alan Kulwicki had a big heart. A lot of people might not know that he did a lot of charity work and made contributions to a lot of different charities. He had some favorites, and the family has requested that in lieu of flowers, that contributions could be made to any one of his favorite charities. Now, we need to take a short break right now. When we come back, we'll have part 2 on Alan Kulwicki, looking at his fabulous career. And as we leave you for this break, here are some of the charities and the addresses that you could make a contribution to.
Charitable donations can be made to any of the following: Winston Cup Racing Wives Auxiliary, Post Office Box 15123, Charlotte, North Carolina 28211. Brenner Children's Hospital Developmental Office, Medical Center Boulevard, Winston-Salem, North Carolina 27157-1021. National Head Injury Foundation, 1776 Massachusetts Avenue, Northwest Suite 100, Washington, D.C. 20036. St. Thomas Aquinas Church, 1400 Southern Road, Charlotte, North Carolina 28269. 1 year ago, hometown favorite Tommy Houston survived a wreck-filled race to take the checkered flag at the Hickory Motor Speedway. Now the Busch Grand National Series returns to the tight track with David Green leading the points race and several other of the top names still looking for their first win of the season. We'll have all the highlights of the Mountain Dew 400.
Mike Greenwell is an all-star outfielder with the Boston Red Sox, and while baseball is his profession, he now wants to make racing his business.
It takes a team to win, and on the baseball field, it takes a team to win at the racetrack, and I think that's why racing has just kind of like slid right into my life.
Rick Wilson is facing the pressure of replacing a legend, his car owner, Richard Petty. Rick has gotten off to a rough start in 1993, but with the king in his corner, Wilson is hoping to help Petty Enterprises regain its winning form.
Alan Kulwicki left us with a legacy of respect, determination, and inspiration. Inspiration for mankind, and certainly for a lot of race drivers who hope to do what he did in the sport of auto racing. He proved once again that where there's a will, there's a way, that the American dream does still live, that if you set goals for yourself and work hard enough at them, that you can accomplish anything that you want to. Alan Kulwicki had a dream, and that dream was to race in the Winston Cup Series and to one day be its champion. He came from virtually nothing to reaching the pinnacle in the sport.
Alan Kulwicki came from a small family. His mother passed away when he was only in 2nd grade. His brother died of leukemia just a few years later. With the help of his father, Gerald, Alan grew up with a solid foundation, ultimately graduating from college with a degree in engineering, but also with a desire to race, instilled by his father, who built racing engines for a living in the Midwest. After becoming successful as a driver on the ASA circuit in the mid-'80s, Alan decided to move up to the big time. He left his Greenfield, Wisconsin home in January of 1986, with little more than a dream of one day winning the Winston Cup Championship.
It was middle of January 1986, and I was working for the Miller Brewing Company in Charlotte all week long on business. And the phone rang in my hotel room here in Charlotte, and it was Alan. And he said, I'm going south, going Winston Cup racing, and I said, Alan, it's all wrong. It's the middle of January. It's too late. The rides are gone. The sponsors are gone. And he said, you don't understand. I'm in the lobby of your hotel. Jane told me where you're staying. I just need a place to sleep. And so I said, well, okay, it's fine. You know, tomorrow you can go home. And he, of course, listened to my advice and went on to win Rookie of the Year.
I had run 5 races in 1985 for Bill Terry from Greenville, South Carolina. And going into 86, I thought, well, now is the time. If I'm going to do it, the time's right. And there were a couple of potential rides, a couple of potential sponsors. And I said, well, I'm going to take a gamble. One of these should come through. And so I sold my ASA equipment, gave a notice on the apartment, got ready to move, and January came and they were having a going away party for me. But I didn't know where I was going to. None of the opportunities came through, so Bill said, come on down and we'll go to Daytona and see what happens.
What happened was Alan crashed his one and only race car during practice the day before his 125-mile qualifying race. Immediately, he displayed that discipline and determination that would ultimately make him a champion. He worked through the night to get his car ready to race. The end result, Alan failed to make the Daytona 500 field by only one position.
Eventually, we went on to Rockingham. I think we finished like 14th. They were the highest finishing rookie. And after that, I bought the car from Bill and moved to Charlotte and had that one car and a couple of leased engines from Prototype Engineering, and they had 2 full-time employees, and that's what we got through the Rookie of the Year battle with.
Often referred to as a perfectionist, Alan was once quoted as saying, "Our goal is to become, not to acquire." Alan became a race winner in 1988 at Phoenix. It was his 85th start and only his 2nd full season on the circuit. By the end of 1990, he registered his first top 10 in the final point standings. And by then, he had won another race, along with 14 pole positions. After gaining many of those poles by the narrowest of margins, he earned the nickname Slider among his competitors in the garage area. Throughout his career, Kulwicki was courted by the best of car owners to sit in their seats. He turned them all down, including the legendary Junior Johnson, on a chance that he could accomplish his goals on his own terms.
Had his offer come a little bit earlier in my career, you know, I may have taken it. But by that point, I had put enough into the team financially and emotionally that it became something that I didn't want to give up on. We had led races and run up front, and just felt that if I quit, if I gave up on it, I would have always felt like I quit. I would have been second-guessing myself, wondering if I ever could have accomplished something like this.
At the beginning of 1991, Alan once again faced what seemed like insurmountable odds. He entered the season without a sponsor. It was 4 races in before Hooters Restaurants came on board, eventually to stay. It was less than 2 years later, at the age of 37, that Alan's quest to be the best finally came true, winning the Winston Cup title by only 10 points over Bill Elliott, the narrowest margin in the sport's history. Alan Kulwicki won over $5 million, 24 pole positions, 5 Winston Cup races, and he truly lived the American dream.
Well, our time's up for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. And from the entire staff of Inside Winston Cup Racing, our heartfelt sympathy goes out to the families of Alan Kulwicki, Mark Brooks, Charles Campbell, and Dan Duncan. They will certainly be missed in the sport of auto racing.
Inside Winston Cup Racing has been brought to you by coal-filtered Miller Genuine Draft and Miller Genuine Draft Light, taking the country by storm. And by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. Ground transportation for the Inside Winston Cup Racing crew provided by Mark III Luxury Vans and Trucks, the official vans and trucks of NASCAR. Clothing for the Inside Winston Cup Racing crew provided by Simpson Race Products, where innovation never stops. Promotional consideration and a fee paid for by NASCAR Video, taking you behind the scenes to meet the top drivers and personalities in the sport. Get your first volume featuring a week in the life of a race team. Order today.